In this video, we're going to be using Fantasy Grounds Classic and the 5th edition rule set, and we're going to be going over how you can create your own classes for use in your games. Now, when you are creating your own classes, very often there's kind of two scenarios that you'll be working in. One scenario is where you're taking an existing class and adding a new archetype to it, like for a cleric, adding a new domain, divine domain or whatever. And then the other scenario is where you're constructing an entirely new class. So we're going to go over both of those. One is really just a shortcut to the other, but we're going to be going over both of those. So first off, let's start off opening our classes banner. And you can see here, I have the D&D 5e SRD data module currently loaded. And I'll be using this as an example as we go along. But when we create a new class, we'll go ahead and create our new item. As in the previous character building types like races and backgrounds and such, the class window initially has these two tabs and the name. Now this first tab, the main tab, is just going to be for the players to reference. None of the automation, none of the information on this main tab is used by Fantasy Grounds in any way. It is a handy place to put information for players' reference. So for example, if we were to open up a barbarian, you can see here that it includes various tables, descriptions of their skills and abilities and powers and features and whatnot. And so that's what you'll put here on the main tab. In general, when creating a new class, I like to work from the other tab first and then come back and finish the main tab second. The other tab is where all of the magic happens. That's where all of the automation will come in. So when we're creating a new class, we have a variety of fields that we need to fill out for that class. First up here is HD per level. This is the hit dice. For 5th edition, hit dice is of course an important aspect of your class. And so here we have, you can see an example of it, 1d12 per barbarian level. And so you would just put whatever the dice string here that is applicable for your class. Now, it is important to use one of the standard die types. The reason for that, even though Fantasy Grounds will accept it if you add in something odd like a 1d7 or a 1d13, it will go ahead and allow that. But on the character sheet, you will not be able to roll hit dice because it uses the dice, the standard dice types. And if you use something odd or some weird number that's not a standard dice, this will just appear blank and you won't be able to actually roll hit dice to heal yourself. So use any one of these standard dice types for your hit die per level. And then we fill out the information here as appropriate for your class. Now, first level proficiencies, these are the things that are given to your character when you take the class as the first level that you're taking it. So this is when you're creating your character, your very first class that you add to the character. This is the series of proficiencies that they will get. And we have options for armor, saving throws, skills, tools, and weapons. Most of these things are like weapons, armor, and stuff. Those are transferred to your player purely as informational text here on your abilities tab. It'll list them out here. Things like skills, if you mark them off, you can see here there's a couple of different phrases that you can choose from, choosing two from, and then a list of skills. That's a common one for many classes, is to have a skill selection from a list. Any tool proficiencies, saving throws, of course, will mark them as proficient, as well as the skills that are selected will mark them as proficient. This multi-class proficiencies section is where is the list of proficiencies that are going to be added to the character if they take this as a secondary multi-class. So they've already got a level in something else, and they take this class then it will give these And for most classes, this tends to be a more restricted or a more limited set of proficiencies that are granted. Things like the bard, you may have proficiency in 3 instruments for first level proficiencies, but if you take it as a multi-class, you may only get 1 instrument or something like that. So those are the proficiencies, and for most of these, you'll just type in the information that is relevant here, or copy and paste the appropriate information. Next up is where a lot of the automation and stuff will come in, and that's setting up our features and our specializations. So our specializations refer to the different archetypes, every class basically has one or more different options available to it, kind of paths along the way. The bard has the various bardic colleges, the cleric has the cleric domains, the wizards have wizard schools, and so forth. Everybody has some form of specialization available to it. So this is where we're going to define the different specializations that we'll be able to use. And when we're working with these, it's important to go ahead and edit it, add your first one, give it a name, add our second one, give it a name, and we'll close the edit list button. And when I close the edit list button, now I will have this shield link available to me, and I can open it up, and I can put any descriptive entries or links to features or anything like that. So that goes ahead and creates the specializations. Now, when we are creating the class, every class comes with a long list of features, things that you gain at various levels. So now let's go ahead and take a look at how you enter features. So we're going to go ahead and edit the list, and let's just add a few features here and then get out of that edit list. For each feature, you can go ahead and open it up, give it a name. We'll give this guy spellcasting at first level. Make sure you give it a level. Now, it is important with spellcasting. Take a look at the existing classes for references, but the wording of spellcasting is important, how the spellcasting feature is worded. So here I have a cleric as an example, and the spellcasting feature has to have this phrase that says, blank is your spellcasting ability for your spells. This is so that Fantasy Grounds can automate that when it's added to your character sheet, so that the spells section of the actions tab automatically calculates the spell saving throw and attack bonuses correctly. So we're going to go ahead and add a couple features here, spellcasting, and we'd include some special, whatever descriptive elements there. We'll add a second one. We'll call this Blade Strike, and this is going to be given at second level. And then we'll say at third level, he's going to get his choice of specializations. Now, we gave him 2 specializations, first option and second option. This could be domains, this could be bardic colleges, this could be whatever. So we'll choice of specialization at third level. Now, at this point, this is where we check this spec choice checkbox. What that means is that when the character gains this feature, it knows to allow the character the option of selecting a specialization. So whatever specializations are listed, if there's more than one, it will pop up a choice box and allow you to select which one will be given to the character. And that will allow us to define which options will be granted as well later on by them making a choice. So we'll go ahead and create that as the choice. And then let's make these last 2 to be specialization options. So these are going to be, we'll call this sword bash, and it's given at third level, but we don't want it to be given to everybody. We only want it to be given to people who selected the first option as their specialization. So we'll go ahead and put the name of the specialization that this feature belongs to into this spec required column or field. And we'll do the same thing with this last one. We'll call this hammer bash. And this will also be at third level. And in this one, we're going to copy over our second option as a specialization required field. So what we have here is a very simple class. We'll give it a number here, 1D10 per level. And I'm not going to worry about filling in the rest of this. All right, so now we have a simple class that only has 3 levels to it. When we create a PC, and we go ahead and give it this class, the first thing it's going to do is copy over the information. It's got its hit points associated with it on all of that information. And we come down to abilities, and we can see its spell casting has been given because that's granted at first level. So we'll add a second level, and now the Blade Strike ability has been added. And finally, at third level, we have the option of selecting either the first specialization option or the second specialization option. So we'll select the second specialization option, and by doing so, we now have the hammer bash ability. We do not have the sword bash because that belongs to the first specialization option. So that is the basics for constructing a class. So I want to go through 2 examples of actually implementing a class. And for the examples, I'm going to pick 2 from the Adventure Week Games, AAW Games, Underworld Races and Classes book, which I picked up some time ago. And we're going to go ahead and create them so that you can see the process start to finish. Now, the first one that I'm going to do is going to be simply adding a new cleric domain to it. So I don't need to construct the entire class. It would be a waste of time for me to have to go through and put in all of the information for an entire class. Instead, what I can do is I can load up the 5e SRD data, which has a cleric class already implemented. So I'll go ahead and make a copy of it. Make sure I'm editing my new copy. And so here is a copy of the cleric class that I can go ahead and edit. Now, this cleric class, the one from the SRD, comes with the life domain already in it. We're going to actually go ahead and remove all of the life domain features because we don't need the life domain. Let's unlock this. None of this is going to change. So we're going to get rid of this bonus proficiency for life. What else is there? We have Channel Divinity Preserve Life. We have Blessed Healer. Divine Strike and Supreme Healing. These are all life domain specializations. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to implement this this new specialization. And from the Underworld Races and Classes, the specialization we're going to add is called, let me get out of here, it's called the Ahul Keener Cleric Domain. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to copy and paste all of the information over. I've already pre-copied and pasted from the PDF into Notepad++ and cleaned it up to make it easy to use. So I've copied and pasted the information here, and we'll do some quick formatting here on some spells. All right, so we have some basic information set up here. Notice I have the class features listed here. I will actually go through and create each of these class features now because they don't currently exist. So let's add the first one, which is Stealth of the Predator. how many do we have? 1, 2, 3. We'll give each of them their names. Just quickly copying and pasting all of them in here. You notice I've got everything still at level 0, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead one by one and fill out all of the information now that they have been created. So let's start off just by linking up the information here so that I have an easy reference without having to jump back and forth. Potent Sonics. And all I'm doing here is linking the entries so that when the players take a look at this, they'll have an easy link to reference the powers and capabilities here. All right, so now we're going to copy and paste over the actual information. Channel Divinity starting at 2nd level, and we'll copy and paste. And in this one, remember this is a specialization choice, so I need to make sure this spec required is filled out, and that's the A-hole keener. Next up is Lord of Caravans. We'll copy that in there again, or Caverns, Caravans. And this one is at 17th level. Potent Sonics again. Potent Sonics is at 8th level. We'll copy and paste that information there. So now we've got that. Sanguine Supplicant. I'm just filling all of these specialization required ones. Smashing Keeney. And last but not least, Stealth of the Predator. All right, so now I've copied and pasted all of the abilities in that are necessary. You can see here now they all show up on the list here. Things like the Sanguine. This one, you can see the life domain. We can get rid of that. I must have missed that one earlier. But we have all of the rest of our abilities and class specialization features all set up. So when we're ready to create a new character and give it this class, we can drag and drop. And we'll give it the selection for proficiencies. And because there is only the single archetype, the A-hole keener available to it, that's automatically been granted. If there were a second, it would have allowed you a selection, of course. And we can add a few more levels as it goes through. And you can see here on the Abilities tab that it continues to give each of the features as they were designated here on the class. So you can see here that adding in a new specialization choice is generally relatively simple here on your class definition. Once we're done adding all of that information here, then I would go back on the main tab. And the only thing I need to do here is to scroll down where it has the Defined Domains section and get rid of that. And drag and drop the link to that. And that's it. I've completed this class by adding a new archetype to it. So for the second example that I want to work through, this one's going to take a little bit longer, where I'm going to work through the entire process of adding a new class with everything being blank. So the class that I will be implementing is the Gemcaster, a Sverfneblin class from that book. So we'll go ahead and add the Gemcaster. Now I've got the text again already prepared. We'll copy and paste the basic text in. And now we need to fill in all of the fields here. So we'll start copying and pasting all of the fields in. It's important for saving throws you spell out the names of the stats correctly. This particular class does not have any multi-class proficiencies, so these are going to be blank. And I'll go ahead and start off by creating my specializations first. There are two. Let me try that again. The first one is called the Faucet of the Flawless Caster. F. And the second one is the Gemblade Faucet. All right, and we'll come back and edit those here shortly. Now we're going to go ahead and add in our features. There are a large list of features here. So if we take a look at the Gemcaster, we can see the table here has all of the features laid out, and we would go ahead and start implementing each of them one at a time. So I'll start with the first few, and then I'll skip ahead. So the first feature, spell casting at level 1. One other thing I do want to point out here is the importance of what level you gain the spellcasting feat or the feature. This is important because Fantasy Grounds automatically calculates your spell slot progression. It doesn't follow tables or anything that you've copied and pasted into it. So the progression of your spell slots depends on what level you gain the spellcasting feature. So Fantasy Grounds kind of breaks it down into full spellcasters, which is those that gain spellcasting at first level. They follow one progression. Then there's half casters, which gain it at second level. Usually there's a number of classes that don't gain it until second level, and they will follow a separate progression. Then there's a third category that we call 1/3 casters. Those are those that gain it at third level, typically as part of a specialization or an archetype. Fighters, arcane, there may be any number of the specializations that might grant the spellcasting feature to them. And then, of course, the fourth one, which is the Pact Magic, which is for warlocks, which is its own special thing. So it is important which level you choose to give the ability at. So Appraisal, which is also first level. All right, so I'm going to go up till there, and this third level Gemcaster Faucet is the spec choice. This is when they get to choose which of these two specializations they will take. So in each of these cases, I'm going to, now that I've created the feature, I'm not going to go all the way out to 20 because that's would be very long. But for each of these, I'm going to go ahead now and copy and paste the text. So spellcasting. And I can go ahead and do some formatting. Just so that it makes more sense, easier to read. Do the appraisal. All right, and now we've copied and pasted in all of the abilities that I'm going to put in for now. So if we were to add this class to a character at this point, it would work up through level 3, and then it wouldn't work anymore because we don't have any more levels of features defined. It would just give additional hit points. But adding it, we can select our skills that we defined up here. You can see it's already marked the saving throws as proficient, as well as, because we have the spellcasting feature, it's created this spells group and appropriately selected charisma as the ability for that spells group. Now adding it again and a third time gives us the choice of Faucet of the Flawless Caster or Gemblade Faucet. Now one thing I do want to point out here, the ordering that it appears on this select specialization window will be the order that you create them in, not necessarily alphabetically. So it's going to be listed in the order that you create them. So you want to create them, if you want it to be alphabetical or to appear alphabetically sorted, you'll want to create them in that specific order. And so now we've got this. So I have actually gone ahead and completed this class. And I'll pull that completed example up. So here is my completed example. So here on the main tab, I have the descriptive elements. This is just a description of what it is. Some of the tables filled out with information on what the levels they gain various things. And again, all of this is simply for players' reference so that they have an easy access to the information. Here on the other tab, I've gone ahead and created all of the features for this particular class, including all of the specialization features. So Sapphire Gem Magic, which belongs to the Faucet of the Flawless Caster, will be defined here as well. And in that case, it has the information and it has the specialization required listed so that it's only given to the to those who belong to that specialization. Once all of these features were created, I then opened them individually, and this is kind of one of the longer processes, and then dragged and dropped them down here to create the links. So you're going to open them up on the other tab so that their windows are open, go back to the main tab, and then drag and drop the links over here so that you have all of the links created. And with that, we have a full, completely brand new class added to Fantasy Grounds. So with this video, it kind of wraps up all of the 5th edition elements, the various banner types for creating new characters and new entries of all of the different types. And for our next video, I'll be going over how we take all of the various types of information that we've created and generating our own modules from them. Thank you.